All right. Today we're talking about ferments, and we've done a lot of videos on ferments, but we want to continue to do more information because I've been trying to figure out how to incorporate more and more ferments into my diet. And I have a homeschool mom that I deal with, and she has 3 kids, and I had 3 kids, and some of our kids have been really picky. My kids are grown now, and back in the 60s when I was a kid, you weren't allowed to be picky. But if anybody was picky in my family, it was me. I was the middle kid, and there were definitely foods that I just wouldn't eat, and my brother and sister would. They would eat almost everything, and I didn't care for a few foods like watermelon and bell pepper, and I didn't like seafood and things like that. So I didn't like beets, and I didn't like liver. I didn't even like meat very much, but I had to eat it. So there were a lot of things I had to eat. And kids, now we typically don't make them eat as much as I was made to eat. So, but how do you help people get a variety of food? And the reason this ends up being kind of important is because as a medical doctor, we want people to get a variety of foods to have a variety of nutrients. And every food has a different amount of nutrients in it. So the more variety we get, the better nutrients we get. So when it comes to fermented foods, at this moment, we don't know how well fermented foods help our gut, but we really believe they do. So we haven't gotten deeper and deeper into the information about how well it helps. So, but I still want people to work on getting a variety of fermented foods because each fermented food is going to have its own microbiome and its own different bacteria that may be really good for our gut. Most cultures, many cultures, I can't say most, I don't know what the percentage would be, but many cultures around the earth have eaten some form of fermented food in the form of dairy or vegetables. And even meats. Some of the Inuit fermented their fish, and different groups may have fermented meat and eaten it because they didn't have refrigeration, so they had to have a way to keep it. So, and you can even ferment fruits. So we did a video just a little while ago on putting this fermented blueberries in my yogurt. And because it's salty, the salt and the sweet and the sour go really well together. So I'm always working on teaching people how to eat all the flavors together. Salty, sour, savory, and sweet. Because our mouth really likes it. And it makes us enjoy the food a whole lot more. And I learned that from my daughter, who's a chef. So I accidentally ran across it and made some food that had all that in it. And she told me that's why I liked it so much. So I'm not a big fan of sauerkraut, so I don't eat it as much. I will eat it, especially if I mix it with other foods, but I don't like it alone. So I have sauerkraut, but I often forget to eat fermented foods. So I'm really trying to work on doing it more. Now, I don't forget to eat yogurt because I love yogurt. And so adding the fermented blueberries to it and the kefir, so I have 3 different ferments in one dish, is really good. What I wanted to talk about on the blueberries was that, now this liquid is down a little bit, so I will probably add a little bit of liquid today with a little bit of salt to get this above the blueberries. Once I keep taking these out over the next several days, I end up with just liquid in the bottom and maybe a few blueberries. And I did an experiment a couple of weeks ago with my blueberries. I have frozen blueberries. I brought them home and I blended them really, really well. I used my immersion blender, but I also have bought just recently so I can do it, I bought one of these. And it's a Ninja. So, and it has the cups with it. So I bought this so I could get it even smoother because my immersion blender doesn't get the blueberries quite as smooth. But the blueberries are tough when you freeze them and when you ferment them. The skin is tough. But when I blend them, they're really good. So what I did was I took a pack of frozen blueberries and put it in this jar with whatever liquid was left and a few fermented blueberries. I blended it all up really well, and I was able to use this jar of frozen blueberries with this mix for 2 weeks. And you typically could not do that just with frozen blueberries. You have to use those blueberries usually within 3 or 4 days, or they start to go bad and ferment and get alcoholic. They did not do that with my ferment, and probably because of the salt and the ferment in it. And it just, I couldn't believe it. It lasted, and I kept smelling it every day, and it never smelled like alcohol. It started to maybe get a tiny bit this last bit I used like 2 days ago, and it had been 2 weeks, but it still tasted great in my yogurt. I didn't have a problem with it. So that's another benefit to, you know, having these ferments and putting the blueberries in, the frozen blueberries, because this is my last jar for this year of fermented blueberries, because I didn't know how well they would do. Next year, I'm going to do a whole lot more fermented blueberries. One of the issues, and we'll talk about this in a little while, in an hour or so, is where do you keep all these ferments? So we have a particular little refrigerator that we're putting ferments in right now. I'm fortunate that I have 2 refrigerators at my clinic. So if I run out of space here, because I have some in my chest fridge here, we have some in our regular refrigerator, but then we have a separate refrigerator that only has ferments in it mostly. We keep eggs in there too. And then I have an extra fridge at the clinic if I run out of space. Not everybody has the benefit of having that many refrigerators. So if you do ferments, you do have to have a place to keep them. Some people might, if they're in a cooler climate than Alabama, they might be able to use a root cellar. But even then, it's got to stay really cool, you know, for these ferments not to go bad. So, and I'm thinking, you know, under 50 degrees. And that's hard to get unless you live way up north. So that you might be able to do that. I can't say for sure what the temperature should be. I know that in my fridge, we're keeping them at around 45. We're not as cold as a regular refrigerator, maybe a little bit above. So that's a little bit about that. The low salt. It says low salt because I did some with high salt and they did not work. So I have 1 jar left. The next thing we wanted to talk about today, and I have not tried these. I did these several months ago, and I haven't opened them yet. So these are, I bought these organically from the grocery store. I did not grow these. And I wanted to try to ferment cabbages. I looked for my book by Sandor Katz, because he does wild fermentation. He has several books on fermentation. I cannot find it. I'm going to go look in another place, and if I can't find it, I'll just get another one. But anyway, I want to try these. So y'all are going to get to watch my face as I try these. So my expectation is that a lot of times when you ferment your food, so these are beets. I've tasted my beets. I've tasted my carrots. And I think these are bulging just a tiny bit because of the gases in them. I feel like the texture is going to be kind of tough. So, and that's okay, because kraut isn't, you want it, you want it crunchy. But I don't know how that'll be with a Brussels sprout. And I have an issue, like some people do, with textures. A lot of kids have issues with textures when they're eating things. And I think I had that somewhat when I was young. And so that's why I didn't like certain foods. So that's something you have to think about. But what I'm also trying to do is find ways to use these. Even if I don't like the texture, I'll hopefully figure it out. So for instance, on the beets, I just cut them up and put chunks of beets in here, pieces of slices and stuff. And I have had beets that I got at Publix that were shredded, like cabbage was. So, and I like the texture better. I like the texture of shredded beets instead of, chunks of beets. These are hard when you eat them, which aren't bad, but, it's not crunchy. It's just hard. So I don't know if the longer you go, the better it gets. But I did find that putting these juices in from the beets, which is called kvass, K-V-A-S-S, 2 S's, that I had no problem doing kvass. I could put it in a little glass and just drink it down like a shot, like you do pickle juice or something like that. And that wasn't an issue for me. But chewing on these, I wasn't as fond of. But if you put them in a salad or things like that, it might, you know, and you might even be able to, afterwards, you might be able to cut these up a little thinner and just add them to your salad and not even notice. So I am going to see if I can get this open. And it doesn't explode like the blueberries. The blueberries exploded on me because they had more, and that did not. There's no white growing on it. And it smells like pickles. So it looks like there's no, I don't have to scoop off any white. So I'm going to get a little dish, and I'm going to try these and see how it tastes. I always get a clean spoon or fork to put in my ferments, because I don't want to introduce any extra bacteria. So if I dip in once and put it down somewhere, I don't dip in again. If I put it in my mouth, I absolutely don't do it, because I'll introduce some bacteria. So, I can dip it a couple of times as long as I'm not touching other things. So I'm going to do this, get 3 of them out. I have a person, Miss Bree, who's helping me with the camera today, and she's going to try it too. So they're still kind of, they're not super, super hard. So we will see how these taste. So I'm going to try one and see how it goes. It's a little big, but I'm going to eat it. It's softer. It's very salty. So eating them plain, I think they'd be great with other food, just like the kraut. They're not as hard as I thought they would be. So that's good. And they're still a little bit, they're not too soft. They don't feel mushy, which is good. So they're super salty. So that makes them, that would make them go really well with a salad, with meats, with savory foods. And remember, we always want salty, sour. So these have a salty, sour flavor. Savory and sweet are our vegetables and our savory meats and gravies. So this would go really well, I think, with a meal, with a regular meal. So I'm happy. I think these are definitely reasonable, because when I ate the beets before, they were hard and I wasn't fond of them. Now, I've had these in this, I don't remember exactly what month I did them. It's been a few months. It's probably been 6 months. I did them last spring, or I don't remember when I put them in the jar. We can probably look back at our old video and see, because I did a video when I did them. So we could look back and see what the date was. But it's been a few months. If you tried to taste them like 2 or 3 months out, they still might be a lot harder. So that's actually pretty tasty. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to get a clean fork for Bree, and then we're going to let her taste it. And there you go. And I'm going to swap spots. Let's see.
I might be too tall.
Yeah, you are. Of course, I'm a shorty, and she's very tall. So there you go.
And I get to try all your fun concoctions. I've tried the okra too.
Yeah, you were in the okra video.
Mm-hmm. It is salty.
Yes. And that might be why it's not growing anything really well. I tend to probably go a little on the salty side, because I put 2 tablespoons per jar, or 4, not per liquid.
Liquid.
Yes, so I get them a little on the salty side, but I'm good with that, because I just want to make sure that they're still well fermented, and they do really well.
I like it because it's not as bitter.
Yes.
Like, my kids won't do roasted Brussels sprouts like for any reason. I think because of the bitterness.
Yep.
But my son will eat sauerkraut.
Yeah.
He'll gobble it up. Because it's not as bitter.
Right.
It's salty, but it's not as bitter.
Yep.
But this is good.
Yeah.
It is. It's not as crunchy as shredded sauerkraut would be. But I like salty food. I mean, I put salt on everything.
Yes.
So it's good to me.
Yes. All right. So cool. There goes our Brussels. All right. And then, okay. So that's I'm excited about that. So I'm going to take this last one to my other half and see what he thinks. And see what he feels like the texture is and all that. So this is just beets. So I did some jars of beets. I don't have to open it and taste it right now. But I brought them down here to put in my fridge so I'd use it. And so I'd take shots of the kvass, which is the liquid. And I will try to take the lid off. Hopefully it won't explode. No. So these did not. These didn't explode. There's actually no white. And I will take a clean fork, just to be sure, and pull it out so you can see what it looks like. So I just sliced these up. So there's, and I can go ahead. These have been in here a while too. So let me see if they've softened any. Not really.
I can hear you crunching.
They're good and crunchy. So adding just a little bit with a salad is okay. It's always good to me to add it with a salad or put it on your plate. And it's super salty. So, so there are the beets. So I'm going to put these in the fridge down here so I remember to eat them or either take them to the clinic. Now the last item that we're going to do in our video today is Schisandra berry. And when we did our rocket mass heater build, I took this whole thing and made 2 gallons of tea out of it. So I soaked them for probably a couple of hours. I wanted them really good and soaked. I made 2 gallons of tea out of this one jar. This jar, these aren't exactly cheap, but it wasn't horrible, I guess. It was 15 bucks, you could say, 30 for 2 of these. So one jar for 2 gallons of tea was 15 bucks. So, and this is a sour kind of, berries typically, when they're dried, they typically are a little sour. And I put a little sweetener, some of our alternative sweeteners in. And accidentally, or maybe on purpose, I wanted to figure out how to use kombucha. So there's a way to make kombucha, and there's a way to make something called June. Kombucha is typically made with black tea and sugar. And you let it, you have a mother that sits in there and it makes more kombucha. And some people may have heard of kombucha. You can get it at Walmart and different places. It's way cheaper to make it at home. So I used to always make it at home. I don't drink kombucha as much now because of the amount of sugar in it. When you buy it at the store, it has a good bit of carbs in it and sweet because they want it the sweet and sour. They add fruit and different things to it that make it more sweet. So I don't buy it anymore because I don't want quite that much sugar. Well, I am given honey very frequently from some of my patients who actually have bees and they grow their own honey and they have fields of flowers and different things that these bees make. And so I make something called June, which is Jun, which is similar to kombucha, except it's made with green tea and honey. So we have a jar of June here that what I did was during the rocket mass heater build, we literally added just a 1/4 cup of June to our Schisandra berry tea. And it was really good. When I drink this by itself, so this has been sitting here probably for 2 weeks. So it's very vinegary, which means it doesn't have a lot of sugar, or even honey, sweetened honey. So I needed a way to be able to drink this down. When I drank it by itself, it literally chokes me because it's so vinegary on the back of my throat. So I'm like, I got to figure out a way to get this healthy bacteria in me, which these have the good probiotics. So I just mixed it with this Schisandra berry tea and put some sweetener in it, and it was delicious. And all of us started doing it the whole weekend. So all of these things that we can do to constantly try to figure out how to add the good bacteria to get our gut going more, better, the better off we are. I have to say medically, I still don't know if that bacteria actually benefits us in the lower part of our gut. It's supposed to. And they're still working on this scientifically to see if it gets past our small intestine, if it gets passed down into our lower colon and it feeds all our good bacteria down there. We don't really know 100% what all gets in us. But people have done this for centuries. So I feel like that if I'm going to be healthier, I probably need to learn to add ferments to my diet. So I'm experimenting with my own body and trying to figure out how to get more of those in. And so this was another way to do it. Do you have any questions, Bree, on ferments that I might have missed? Because I want to make sure our topics are covering everything.
Any problems that you've had, like with ruteri or the growing of the mold?
Yes. So definitely, I use a cooler method, and I think I've done a video on it. I've used a cooler method to make my ferments, my yogurt, and it works really well for 24 to 32 hours, maybe 30 hours. They recommend about 28 hours for fermented yogurt. Re-fermenting what you buy at the store or making fresh yogurt from your previous yogurt. I put boiling water in with it so that it stays around 100 degrees the whole 24 to 28 hours. And that works well. When I went to 36 hours, I tried that. It can depend on the temperature outside and inside your house. If it's cooler, we had some cooler days when I was making the L-reuteri. When I went to 36 hours, it didn't stay close to 100 degrees. It went down to probably in the 80s. And it had a little bit of an alcohol taste. I went ahead and ate it. It wasn't bad, but I could smell when I opened it, it had a little smell of alcohol. And when I mixed it up, it didn't have much. So I went ahead and ate it, and it didn't hurt me. It never bothered my gut, but I don't want it to have that alcohol taste. When I made the next batch of yogurt that I have in the fridge now that I ate today, I can eat it I can put it on the spoon and not even put any sweetener on it. It tastes so good. But not that. That yogurt was very tart, and then it still had some of the alcohol smell. So I watched somebody on YouTube do their L-reuteri, and I do have a yogurt maker. He has the same one I have, and he did it at 99 degrees. And when I've done it in the past, I've done it at 106, and it's separating easily. And the first time you make L-reuteri, it'll separate. And they say if you use that same L-reuteri for your next batch, it won't separate. It'll be smoother. And he showed us, and it did that for his. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to try just to use my yogurt maker to make L-reuteri in the future. Because I think not 36 hours in the cooler method, it's just cooling off, and it's too hard to keep it right at 100 degrees. So I think that's an issue of fermenting yogurt. These mainly have to have your liquid all the way to the top. I did not put in these. When I made these, I bought some of these. I have it in here somewhere. I pulled it out of that blueberry jar. It's a weight. It's a glass weight. I started using those more to keep everything down better so that it wouldn't grow. Things wouldn't come up above. Well, shoot, I can't find it now. What did I do with it? It's in here somewhere. Anyway, it's a glass weight that you can use to hold it down. I can't find it right now. But, and I'm going to use those a little bit more. As foods float up to the top, they have a tendency to grow a little bit of white bacteria. And the white bacteria doesn't hurt us, only black and blue. But it's still not appealing. Open a jar and have a bunch of white bacteria at the top. So I think that's it on ferments that I know of right now. We'll continue to keep making them and trying different things as we go. And next year I'm going to make a lot of fermented blueberries.